Check the description for the following discount codes. I want to try my best not to upset people in this video because I find the subject quite funny, and it might be that the people who don't quite grasp the concept of what happens when our cars accelerate forward, believing them to actually go backwards, are people that perhaps don't drive in real life or haven't perhaps just taken the time to fully think about what they're saying. What am I talking about here, Carl? Well, my last video I did a review of the low slider from Race at Home. Dual traction loss, or as I like to call it, a traction loss actuator at the rear, steering actuator at the front because it steers the front of your sim rig like your wheels in your real car when they turn, and then a surge actuator used for simulating forward acceleration and, if you're going backwards, reversing. Now, this video and other videos where I've mentioned the surge feature of motion, solutions that are available, always gets a reasonable number of comments from people saying, Carl, you're wrong. When you accelerate forwards, you go backwards. Or, Carl, not to be pedantic, but at this timestamp, you said when you accelerate forwards, you go forwards. But what happens in real life is you're pushed backwards when you accelerate forwards. You're pushed backwards when you're going forwards. Now, like I say, I find this a little bit amusing because if you just think about what you're saying when our car, this is a Batmobile, in case anyone's curious, arguably a car that if it existed would have reasonably good acceleration. When my Batmobile pulls off the line, maybe he's chasing down the Joker, who knows, and he accelerates forward, Batman accelerates forward, people are saying he goes backwards, or there is some magical force that pushes Batman backwards whilst his car is going forwards. Now, to anyone with some common sense, that is two opposing forces acting against each other at the same time. We've got all the horsepower of the Batmobile and its jet engines at the back when they're engaged, accelerating you in your Batmobile forwards, so the wheels turn, or well, if it was driven by the engine and the gearbox, if it's the thrust from the jet engines, then the wheels simply turn because the body, the shell of the Batmobile, is being forced forwards by the jet engines. But let's talk about realistic vehicles here. In a normal car, your engine produces your power. The engine rotates, you engage it into first gear, you may lift up your clutch if it's a manual vehicle, or you just simply put your accelerator to the ground if it's an automatic. The wheels turn, front wheel drive, four-wheel drive, doesn't matter. Your wheels turn and then the car itself starts to accelerate forward. We as people are independent of the car. We are sat in the car on a seat, usually with our head and neck, a little bit of our upper body, just slightly forward off of the seat. None of us drive like pushed hard against our headrest like this. You won't get in our car, put our seatbelt on and go, right, I'm in, I'm ready to go, and I'm going to accelerate. Well, obviously, there's always this little bit of a gap. And what happens is, as the car accelerates forward, the seat that we are sat in pushes us forward along with the rest of the car. We cannot, it's physically impossible for us at that moment in time, or any moment in time when we're moving forwards, to be pushed backwards. It's simply not possible. The seat we're sat in, the upright section, and eventually if your head hits the headrest, because the headrest is accelerating forwards and your head is not, until your body starts to move with the car or until your head gets hit by the headrest, then your whole body, your head, everything is moving forward as one with the vehicle. This is what happens when we accelerate. And I'll put up a clip, and because I can see why some people, perhaps people who don't drive, or people who see a lot of clips on YouTube of, you know, really powerful cars, 1,000 horsepower cars, 1,500 horsepower cars, accelerate and they take a passenger for a ride, and you see that passenger appear to go, ugh, and they use the phrase pushed back into the seat. The phrase pushed back into the seat is just wrong. What's happening is the seat in your car is pushing forwards into you. You were static, or in fact, I'll put up a clip demonstrating this if I haven't already.
Oh my God! What?
Oh my God.
I think that injured my back. Oh my God.
You're either static because you haven't, you know, the car's not moving at all, or in the case of this clip, they're going at a steady speed, so both you and the vehicle are traveling at the same speed. You're neither accelerating nor decelerating. And then when the guy puts his foot down, the seats accelerate along with the rest of the car, push into the driver and the passenger, and they then start to accelerate as one with the vehicle until the driver lets off the accelerator pedal, at which point the bodies of the driver and accelerator still have momentum. They're still traveling at whatever speed they were. The car has slowed down. It then takes a fraction of a second for the two occupants to slow down to that speed as well, which is why it appears that they lean forward when the guy lets off the accelerator. They're not leaning forward. The car isn't being pulled backwards. This is another common misconception when it comes to motion setups. When they let off the accelerator or brake, the car is not going backwards, right? This is also impossible. Picture this. Batman's driving along in his car. He lets off the accelerator, so he slows down a little bit. He's still going forwards. He doesn't suddenly go yoink when he presses the brake pedal or when he lets off the accelerator. He's going along, hits the brake, slows down. Still going forward. 100% of the time, always moving forward until Batman comes to a stop. If the Batmobile was then to go backwards, that is what we commonly call reversing. So, when you see these clips of people, I'll put it up again, they're not being pushed back into their seat is pushing forward into them. When they decelerate or brake, they are not being pulled backwards. That is the occupant's mass, momentum, still travelling at the speed they were travelling at until the moment the driver let off the accelerator or touched the brake pedal, at which point the vehicle slows down first, and so the two occupants' bodies are still attempting to continue forward with their momentum. Their harnesses, their seatbelts prevent them from doing so, and they gradually slow down to the same speed as the vehicle. They are not pulled backwards, they are restrained from continuing to be travelling at the speed at which they were travelling at. Again, with the Batmobile, he's moving forward, he brakes, but he's still going forwards. The only time you are ever pulled backwards, and it's pulled, not pushed, is when you are at a standstill and you put it in reverse and you reverse. At that point, the body of the car goes backwards under acceleration. If you do it really, really hard, your harness or your seatbelt is what will pull you backwards with the car. Obviously, we don't tend to accelerate that aggressively in reverse in normal day-to-day life. You're probably doing a maneuver of some sort, reverse around a corner, reverse into a parking spot, whatever it might be. So the seatbelt is not going to pull you backwards. It will simply be that you're sat on the seat, your weight, the friction between you and the material of the seat base means you're going to come with the car eventually. You may notice the car go back a little bit and what looks like you come away from your seat. It's not you coming away from your seat. What is it? It's your seat coming away from you, because the car is what moves first, whether it's forwards, whether it's backwards. What happens to us as the occupants is always fractionally behind that, because we are not fixed as one with the vehicle. If we are using a 4-point harness, that harness is pulled up as tight as it possibly can be, there will be a much shorter delay between what happens to the car and what happens to us. But our heads, unless fully pushed, hard up against the headrest, or should I say the headrest adjusted to be directly behind your head, because you don't want to be sat like that. Obviously, you want to be sat in your normal driving position. And in case you don't know, the idea of a headrest is not for you to rest your head on whilst you're driving, like for a comfort feature. The purpose of a headrest is to stop you getting whiplash. It's a safety feature. That's why it was introduced into cars back in wherever it would have been. So that if you if you were to have a car powerful enough these days to give you whiplash, which you can actually get, the headrest would be there to stop you getting whiplash. And the idea of a headrest is that you adjust it so that it sits about here, just above the center of the back of your head, and as close to the back of your head as possible. So that should you be hit from behind, like when you're stationary, for example, someone smacks you up the rear, your car is then pushed forward, right, by the car that's just smashed into you. If your head isn't against the headrest, your torso, your legs, your arms will go forward almost instantly. The small delay, as we mentioned. When that car is hit from behind, your head, because it articulates on your neck, will not. And that's where whiplash occurs. Body trying to move forward fast, head not keeping up with it, because there's nothing pushing your head, because you've got a gap between you and your headrest. So a headrest should be, for safety, adjusted in any car whenever we drive. No one ever does, but we, in theory we should, so that it's just about here and that it's as close to your head as possible. They say, I think, if there's a gap of 4 centimeters or more, you can actually make whiplash worse, because I researched this before making the video, just because I was curious about a few different things, and one of them was whether headrests are there for comfort or safety. I was pretty certain they're for safety, but I thought I'll just check. But yeah, useful fact. So, once again, when your car accelerates forward, you are pushed forward also under acceleration, whatever that is produced by your engine, the power you have, by your seat. And what you see in this video clip that I'll put up again is the seats pushing into the back of the two occupants in the vehicle and bringing them up to the same speed as what the vehicle is moving at. If we could continuously accelerate at the same force demonstrated in this clip, you would always appear to be squashed, by your seat, because the seat is pushing into you, because that is what acceleration does. Our organs inside us, our skin, our face, everything will be constantly accelerating, and we constantly feel that force. When you then reach an equilibrium, you reach a certain speed, 100 miles an hour, whatever it might be, and you cruise at that speed, we're not under acceleration, and everything kind of balances itself out, and the force is no longer there, and you can look around and move around. You're not like this. And again, it's not me going backwards, it's the seat pushing me forwards. And even with the example of the headrest, your head doesn't tilt backwards from its original position. Your body is moving forwards, and as a result your chin goes forwards first and your head rotates on that axis there, while still moving forwards. It's not like I'm sat here and someone hits me in the head. That's my head going backwards. And if you were to be in a car and someone says you're pushed backwards, someone would have to physically push on the front of you, like to push you backwards. Just the same as if you were stood up and one of your mates come up behind you and pushed you like that. That is acceleration when a car moves forward. That is you being pushed forward. That is what happens. So, when it comes to our motion systems that have a surge actuator, ask yourself, under acceleration, when your car is going forwards, what should your surge actuator be doing? Should it be pulling you backwards? Or, just like in real life, should it be accelerating you forwards? Up to the limit of the travel you have on your motion system. In real life, a car can keep accelerating forwards as long as it has power and as long as there's enough road to do so. In our sim rigs, my rig, 200 mil of forward travel, so I can accelerate at the maximum G-force my Scorpion PT actuators will do for 200 mil. So I can literally, at the line, as I pull off, and I'm pushed forward, just the same as I am in my car. And it feels excellent. That I can tell you, it feels great. I've tuned mine to be quite aggressive. So not only when I accelerate off from the line, but if I decelerate in the game, because what happens is, we can't keep accelerating forward in a simulator. That's impossible. I would drive through the window, out into the yard there, and I'd be off in the distance. That can't happen. So we have to work within the limitations of physics. So what happens with my rig is, from a static position, the surge actuator is centralized, so it could go backwards if I was to put my car in the game into reverse, because again, in real life, the only time you were ever pulled backwards in your seat, again, you're never pushed, there's nothing in front of you pushing you, your seat, harnesses or belt are pulling you backwards, is when you go in reverse. So I could have it do that if I go into reverse. Fine, and that's how I have mine set up. But for acceleration forward, I have mine so that it sits centrally. When I accelerate hard, first and second gear, it's quite aggressive to like the full extent of the 200 mil of travel. And then what happens is that actuator, whilst I am then either at a static speed or that acceleration has dropped off, it gradually returns back to the center position. It doesn't yoink me backwards because I would notice that and that would feel so weird. It's like I'm still going forwards but I've just been pulled backwards. What the hell's going on here? So it does it very gradually and slowly, so there's not enough force for me to notice. That way it's ready for when I press the accelerator again, because maybe I've let off, to go around a corner. Maybe I've let off because I'm right behind somebody. I'm no longer accelerating up behind them. I'm waiting to pull out and go past them. It's ready so that when I then put my foot down again, boom, I accelerate forwards, just like I would in real life. So, to summarize, whenever a car accelerates forward in real life, it accelerates forward. And you, as the occupant, accelerate forward with it, pushed by the upright of your seat. And if your headrest is set correctly, by the headrest also. If in real life your car reverses, you are pulled backwards by your weight and friction of you on the seat. And if you were to reverse back, like, I don't know, literally foot flat to the floor, dump the clutch and actually get some, proper acceleration in reverse, your seat belt or harness may actually pull you backwards as well. But at no point in real life are you ever pushed back into your seat, i.e. I'm in my seat, something has pushed me into my seat. What you're seeing in those video clips is my seat pushing into me. And if my head appears to tilt, or the head's in the video, it's because my torso is moving forward first and my head catches up afterwards once it has taken up the gap, once the seat has taken up the gap between your head and the headrest. Again, always moving forwards when you're moving forwards. Never at any point moving backwards. Now, if in your sim rig you want to reverse when you're in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth of any forward gear, if you want your sim rig to go backwards, that's up to you. But it isn't what happens in real life. And it doesn't feel anything like what happens in real life. It feels like you've put your car in reverse and you're reversing, because that is exactly what you're doing. Your sim rig is moving backwards, whilst in the game, your visuals are telling you, and your track position, that you're moving forwards. It's literally the wrong way around. When it comes to braking and deceleration, I know some people like to have their rig pull them backwards when they brake. To emulate, I'm not going to use simulate, because a simulation is as close to realistic as possible, and this isn't realistic. But to emulate what you saw in the video, and I'll put it up again now, in fact, when they let off the accelerator, it appears that they are leaning forward because as if the car has pulled back, away from them. The car hasn't pulled back away from them, as I explained. They are still traveling at the speed they were traveling at a fraction of a second ago, and the car has decelerated. But the car is very much still moving forwards, pardon me, just at a slower rate. And until the occupants' bodies decelerate to the same speed, they will appear to be slightly further forward than they were, because they are. They're still travelling at a faster speed. The car has slowed down. They haven't been yoinked backwards. But some people like to have their sim rigs pull them backwards under braking. Again, it's not accurate, it's not realistic, but you can choose to do it if you want to. I don't like that, because to me it feels like I've gone from going forwards to reversing. It feels a bit weird to me. I just have it, well, it just slowly returns to the centre position. So really I don't simulate braking because you can't. You know, in the real world, braking is the reduction of speed, and because we're not really moving in a sim rig, you can't accurately replicate that. But that's up to you, of course. If you fancy yours pulling you backwards when you brake, just to have a different physical feeling in your rig to that of accelerating, that of course is totally fine. It's not something I like. But anyway, that is 21 minutes of waffle explaining how in the real world your car and you always move forward under forward acceleration, and your car and you always move backwards under rearward acceleration, i.e. reverse. And at no point are you ever moving forward whilst being pushed backwards into your seat. That phraseology is simply incorrect. The seat always pushes in to you. Anyway, enough of that waffle. Hopefully those of you who didn't quite grasp that when you move forward, you always move forward and never backwards, you'll see now why that's the case. And those of you with surge actuators, maybe you'll see why, to be correct from a simulation point of view and accurate when replicating what happens in real life, your surge actuator should always, under every circumstance, when accelerating forwards, accelerate forwards and never pull backwards. So, thank you very much for watching, and as always, take it easy.